Hey, this is Scott Norton, and you're listening to Keepin It Strong Style.
Yo, this is Rich Latta from One Nation Radio. This is brought to you by the Social Suplex Podcast Network. We present to you the Ace of Podcasts, Keepin It Strong Style. Let's go. It's the Ace of Podcasts, Keepin It Strong Style. Covering New Japan, they ready to hold it down. Jeremy Donovan and the Youngboy Josh come and hit a job out in Barrio the Frogs. From the Tokyo Dome over to the G1. Social Suplex is the network where we can get it done. I'ma chill and let them have it, cause this is just an intro. Keeping the strong style, 6 stars from the get-go, boy. Yeah, from Tampa Bay to the Tokyo Dome, this is Keeping It Strong Style with your hosts, Jeremy Donovan and the young boy Joshua Smith. And thank you for listening.
Welcome to Keeping It Strong Style, the Ace of Podcasts on the Social Suplex Podcast Network. The young boy Josh Smith here with special guest Luke, aka Destino's Child, on Twitter. On today's show, we're going to discuss his time in Japan. I'll be reviewing Road to KOPW Nights 1 and 2 and discussing historic crossover. We'll also preview Superhuman Taiji Ishimori Roads 2 Night 3 and 4 and the upcoming King of Pro Wrestling from Sumo Hall. We will also cover all the latest news in the world of New Japan Professional Wrestling. Please support our show by subscribing and following the Social Suplex Podcast Network and Keeping It Strong Style on the podcast app of your choice and leaving a rating and review. You can also get all the network's podcasts over at socialsuplex.com. Check out our Chopped Tees store, chop-tees/KI Strong Style. That's where you can get your official Keeping It Strong Style merchandise. There's free shipping on every order and 10% off your first order. chop-tees.com/KI Strong Style. If you enjoy this podcast, please consider making a one-time or monthly donation by visiting socialsuplex.com/donate and clicking on the donate button under the Keeping It Strong Style logo. We are streaming live on patreon.com/KI Strong Style. If you want to watch our show live or listen without ads, sign up at patreon.com/KI Strong Style. And I apologize for any sort of technical snafus that have occurred over the past week. I know that when we were recording last week, both myself and MJ, we had some technical issues during one of the last segments of the show. Not sure what happened there. I just noticed that when I tried to upload the ad-free audio for you folks on Patreon, I did a horrendous job. Jeremy will be back very soon, and we will get all the kinks worked out. But in the meantime, we are so honored and privileged to have Luke from Twitter here on the show. Luke, welcome to the show. How are you doing?
Yeah, thanks for having me, Josh. Doing good. Thanks to you and Jeremy for having on the show.
Yeah, I'm thrilled to have you here. We're going to talk about some of your time and experiences in Japan. And you and I, we really haven't gotten a chance to dialogue too much. I know that your information was passed on to me from Jeremy. He mentioned that you're a longtime listener and had something to bring to the show. Tell us a little bit about your background. How long have you been listening to the show?
Yeah, so to be honest, sort of as soon as I started watching New Japan, I've been listening to you guys. So, really early days of your show. So probably around 2018.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, so I hadn't actually started watching New Japan until not long before that. So, yeah, a long time.
Okay, awesome. Well, it's always good to have a longtime supporter. You've been through the ups and the downs with this show. And right now with everything that's going on in New Japan, it feels a little bit like a down, but hopefully with some of these recent ticket sales for the Tokyo Dome, things are looking up. Now, we always like our first time guests. You know this, you've been listening to the show for a while, so we like to give you a little bit about your background when it comes to New Japan Professional Wrestling. So I think you said that you started watching, around 2018, is that correct?
Yeah, probably early 2018, and it was kind of a strange in for me. So I kind of got into it because I knew about AJ Styles moving over, and of course at that time he was already in WWE. So I was kind of almost backdating. I was going there to watch AJ, and then I was like, oh, he's gone. So I'll start from here. But of course, New Japan in late 2017, early 18, was such a hot product. It was so good to watch. It didn't take much to hook me with the guys that were there at that time. And from there, I'm a bit of a historian. I'm always keen to go back and watch old stuff. So from then till now, I've kind of covered close to all of the history of New Japan at this stage.
Wow.
So
really?
Yeah.
I don't talk to too many people that have watched extensively a lot of the old stuff. I myself, I've seen a lot of it, but I even have some blind spots of my own. I think this Tanahashi Ace of the Universe project I've been working on has helped me to kind of clean up some of that. But what eras of New Japan prior to this, like most recent, what people call the golden age, what do you like that you've seen, from the past?
Yeah, unfortunately, like everyone else, my favorite time period probably would be between 2014 and 2020.
Mm-hmm.
I'm sure most people will be the same. I do like a lot of the early G1 stuff. I'm a bit of a sucker for that. I've probably watched through every G1 at this stage, so that would be my main thing. But yeah, probably more of the most modern stuff. If you're looking at anything in the 2000s, probably anything involving Tanahashi and Nagata would be the only two things in that time. But yeah, as I say, a lot of modern stuff or some of the old G1 action.
Is there from the early G1s, is there like a match or a particular tournament that sticks out to you that you're a particular fan of? And it looks like we are not hearing Luke. Luke, are you still with me?
I'm still here.
Okay.
You hear me?
Gotcha. Yeah. Did you hear my question?
Yes. Sorry. I was saying that I would probably go for I think it was 95. I hope I'm getting the year right. The Muda and Flair match.
Yeah.
Always really liked that one. Just seeing Flair in the New Japan ring, I think it's one of the first times I saw his work in Japan.
Mm-hmm.
And it was quite different. It was quite refreshing compared to some of the guys that were there at the time. And obviously Muda in 95 was doing some of his better work as well. The 92 final for the NWA title, the Rick Rude and Chono match.
Right.
Ones like that are would be sort of my more niche ones that I like.
Yeah, the Muda match is a really, really fun example of late stage Flair, because I mean, obviously Ric Flair continued to wrestle way beyond that time frame, but like 1995 is probably the last year where he is still on the cusp of wrestling like Ric Flair, and then and he was already on his like way out from kind of being ousted from a top spot within WCW. So he comes over to Japan and he's got this chip on his shoulder, and he like wants to show the world that like he can still go on the Japanese level. So he really worked and bumped his ass off during that G1 tour, and Muda bleeds buckets in that match. That one's a really fun one.
Yeah.
And then
I think.
Oh, go ahead.
Sorry, no, I was just going to say I think Flair is probably the standout player in that G1. It almost felt like he had something to prove coming over. As you say, he was coming sort of to the end of his time as a top guy in WCW maybe. So, I felt like he had a real point to prove. I thought he had a really good tournament.
Yeah, and the Rick Rude Chono match, that one is... I don't want to say it's underrated. I just think it's underseen. Anybody that's seen it knows how phenomenal it is, and it might potentially be Rick Rude's best match on tape that I've seen.
Yeah, I would agree. And you kind of would even get more appreciation for it if you watch the rematch that happened in WCW.
Mm-hmm.
I can't remember the show, but the rematch was so bad. And then if you go back and watch the G1 final, you really appreciate how good it was.
Yeah, you're absolutely correct about that. So, but you are a more, in terms of, recency, you're a fan of the more recent, like kind of peak area. That's when you got into New Japan in general. Do you have a favorite wrestler, just all time or even, current day, and a favorite match that, sticks out to you?
Yeah, I would say probably my favorite New Japan wrestler of all time, probably no secret from my PFP on here and on Twitter, it's probably Tetsuya Naito. Kind of was from the very start. I remember one of the first major Naito matches I seen was the Wrestle Kingdom 12 match against Okada.
Yeah.
Watching that in real time, and so sort of really thinking that's when Okada's reign was going to come to an end. So I was a bit hurt by that one, but from then I sort of was hooked to Naito and just his quality of matches around that, 2016 to 2020 kind of time period. He was sort of always my guy. And then I guess a couple of more obvious picks, not that Naito isn't, but Okada, Tanahashi were always kind of my guys, Ishii. So yeah, a lot of the guys that were on top in that sort of late 2010s period, I got a real attachment to.
Yeah.
In terms of a match, I would probably, again, it's a pretty bland pick, but the 2017 G1 final with Naito and Omega, it's sort of always the first one that comes to mind if someone asks me, what's your favorite match? So probably that one, as much as it's not a very exciting pick that you haven't heard before.
Which one was it?
The 2017 G1 final.
Ah, okay. The 2017, and that's Naito and Omega, correct?
Yeah, Kenny Omega, yeah.
Yeah,
the 20. Sorry, go ahead.
No, you go ahead.
No, I was gonna say the 2016, the block final is always, I think more people would probably pick that one. I always liked the 2017, the final a bit better. It's just from bell to bell, it's just amazing stuff.
Yeah, we had a comment here from a friend of the show, Zach Porter, solid taste, good taste, and I know he's a big Naito fan himself. That's probably why he's tuned in right now. Yeah, I always have this debate, and friend of the show, Rich Latta from One Nation Radio, I think we're both in agreement that of all the Kenny Naito, that trilogy that all took place in the G1, I think we both like the finals better than the semi from the year prior. I know a lot of people are higher on that match, but I literally think that the Naito and Omega match is every bit as good and on the same level as most of the Okada and Omega feud. And in fact, it might be better than some of those matches, really.
I agree.
Yeah. Since you've been listening to the show since the early days, were you listening when I told everybody that Naito was not going to defeat Okada, and how did that hurt your soul?
I do remember hearing that, and I thought, no, Youngboy's wrong on this one. Turns out you weren't. You saw the Okada reign going a little longer, but and of course the way it did end up culminating was probably better than Naito doing it at Wrestle Kingdom, but it still hurt nonetheless.
Yeah, I was going to ask, are you one of the Naito truthers? Do you think that if they could go back and rewrite history, that he should have been coronated there? Or were you happy with what happened, a few years later, just before the pandemic?
Yeah, having it seen play out, I think they did make the right decision. It's sort of clear looking back now that Gato might have had that in the works for a long time, with the crowning moment for Kenny. So I think if Naito never sort of got crowned after that, it would maybe still be a what-if situation. But what happened at Wrestle Kingdom then in 2020 kind of paid it off and brought it all full circle. So no, I think it worked out in the long run. Yeah,
it is unfortunate. Naito was one of my favorite guys before the kind of steep decline with his physicality. And I think because a lot of that coincided with this show, it's like me and Jeremy almost started to get a reputation as being Naito haters, but I really don't think that's the case. Like prior to like 2019, 2020, like Naito was absolutely positively one of the best workers in the world. I always go back to that match with him and Elgin, I think at New Beginning, as being like one of the, not that Elgin's a slouch, but just one of the greatest carry jobs of Naito's career. And I do think it is very unfortunate that the time they wanted to go with him, they wanted to run with him, just happens to coincide with the shutdown of the world, basically from COVID.
Yep.
With that being the case, though, what are your thoughts, since you are a big Naito fan? What do you think is in store for him and whatever? I forget what the faction, what they're calling the faction these days. Where do you think that's all headed? Are we going to see Naito come back?
Yeah, it's hard to know. I very much thought when he was announced that he was leaving the company that it was leading to retirement, just because of his his health issues, his injury problems he struggled with for a few years now. I thought, yeah, that's him finished. But I seen there recently that he's announced for a Rev Pro show pretty soon. Um, it's really hard to know in terms of with New Japan if we'll see him there again. I think with the good start for the ticket sales for the Dome, it would make sense if they tried to get him in on a one-off deal for that. Who he would work with, I'm not sure, but yeah, it's really hard to pinpoint. What's next for Naito if he's going to end up in another major promotion or anything like that.
Let's say he does come back for Wrestle Kingdom this year. Who would you like to see him work right now?
It's a good question. I guess with his ailments, and even though he's had a few months off without any matches, I can't see that miraculously recovering his physical situation. So you'd have to put him in there with a guy that can make him look like $1 million. To be honest, I would, if they had time to build it, which would have to be pretty soon, I guess, I would like to see him go back in there with Hiromu. I don't think their match last year, or I guess the start of this year, it didn't really live up to the expectations just because Naito can't go the way he used to. But the way that the match was meant to happen at the anniversary show in 2020, and I always have in my mind how great that would have been.
Right.
I would like to see Hiromu try and get a match of something close to that standard out of him, but maybe at this stage that ship has sailed. So yeah, maybe one of the younger guys. I would like to see Yuya Uemura in a prominent position. Maybe someone like him, although he's kind of tied up in the tag stuff at the minute. So yeah, I think they could get a whole host of guys that could put on a compelling match with Naito.
Yeah, it is interesting because I wonder, do you set him up to be like a Muto-esque kind of attraction, somebody that stays on the outside? You bring him in for big spots like a Hashimoto was used in the late 90s, early 2000s to do big money matches, and maybe even, in situations like that, those guys don't really job too much unless it's to the tip-top stars. Do you bring him in for some sort of like nostalgia act, dream tag team sort of situation, or do you bring him in to work with the young guys? I think a lot of people would have differing opinions about what would be the best utilization of a guy like Naito in a situation like that. But I don't know. I still have the feeling that the idea of him showing up at the Dome is not out of the question this year. It remains to be seen. I will say this, though. Your idea about Hiromu, I mean, before we had, found out the shocking news that Naito was on his way out, we had been hearing at the time that was going to be revisited somewhere along the lines, somewhere at some time down that year. I don't know when, or against, when that was going to occur, or what the creative was going to be, but that was essentially what we were hearing, was that the match at Wrestle Kingdom was not a one-off, and they had creative plans, obviously creative changes, but maybe they will get back to that. I don't know. Friend of the show, Zach Porter, says Naito needs a modern day hustle promotion. Oh man. So let's jump into, the juicy part of what we came here to talk about. So, you'd reached out to Jeremy. You spent quite a bit of time in Japan just recently. Tell us a little bit, what, when, why, where, how, what were you doing there? What's the deal?
Yeah, my partner and I had been traveling around Southeast Asia for a while, and I always knew that I wanted to stop by in Japan, I suppose, before I came back to Ireland. So Japan ended up being our last destination of that trip. We were there for about 3.5 weeks, so pretty long time in terms of just a holiday, I guess. But
sure,
I tried to sort of see a lot of the country, particularly lots of different parts of Tokyo when we were there. And of course, get as much pro wrestling exposure while I was there. You probably know this, as you and Jeremy are going to the Dome. It's really difficult, if not impossible, to get tickets for shows outside of Japan. So
yeah,
I had a bit of difficulty with that. We'll maybe touch on that in a bit. But yeah, Japan as a whole it's an amazing country. It's probably one of the most amazing places I've ever been. To be honest, I loved every bit of it. Saw all the major, well, not all the major cities. Saw some of the major cities. and I saw some of the venues that I've seen so many New Japan shows in, so that was great, even if it was just, to see from the outside.
Right.
But yeah, really good time.
What other parts of Asia were you traveling in, by the way?
So we were traveling for around 3.5 months in total. So I got to Indonesia, Singapore, Malaysia, Thailand, Vietnam, and then Japan. Yeah, I don't think I missed anything there.
See, I've been to, the only place in Asia that I've been to that overlaps, I've been to Thailand, but just Bangkok. I also spent time in Cambodia and Siem Reap, and then I've been to South Korea in Seoul.
Yeah, cool.
But yeah, it's been over a decade since that, so really looking forward to getting to spend some time in Japan. We did have a couple questions from you from the Discord, which are you in our Discord?
Yes.
Okay.
I don't really write in it, but I am in there.
Okay, gotcha. I was like, it's a pop in place. In fact, today, like, I was going to capture some of the questions for the show, and I was like, 59 comments in our channel. Like, what the fuck are these dudes doing? Like, they're burying all the questions. Aspiring Shoulder asked, what was Luke's biggest challenge while adapting to living in Japan? And I think maybe there was the idea that you lived there. Obviously, you weren't living there, but you said 3.5 weeks. That's not, it's nothing to sniff at.
Yeah, no, it wasn't living there, but yeah, long enough to sort of almost kind of adapt to how things work there, to be honest. I felt like I was there for that long, but yeah, it's hard to say that because, of course, I was sort of in a vacation sort of setting as opposed to what it's like to actually live there and stuff. So I was very much moving around, never too still for too long.
Sure.
Got across a few of the major cities, so it was kind of destination viewing. It was attraction to attraction for me.
Well, let's tailor that question a little bit more just to your experience. So, I mean, what kind of difficulties or challenges did you and your partner have just traveling and visiting in Japan, if any?
Yeah, well, the thing is, Japan is, in terms of their transport system, it's so good. It's so well maintained and connected that, to be honest, you don't really have any difficulty getting around. Whether it's the metro or the sky trains or anything. Once we flew from Vietnam to Osaka, and once I got to Osaka, I was able to get trains everywhere for the rest of the trip until I had to leave the country. So, even, for example, to get from Kyoto to Kyoto to Tokyo, which is right across the country, we were just able to get the Shinkansen train, and it was just so easy. They're always on time. The stations are easy to locate, so it's really easy to get around, which I thought was a massive plus for it.
That's great to hear. What about the language barrier? Was that an issue for you guys?
To be honest, there was a few less people that spoke English than I thought. I thought that everyone in Japan would sort of have some level of English, and some of the other countries I was in wouldn't. And to be honest, it was kind of the other way around. We probably experienced more of a language barrier in Japan than anywhere else. That kind of shocked me. I speak, well, I don't say I speak Japanese. I know the basic phrases, the pleasantries. So that was kind of enough to get us by. And the odd time you would have to use a translator, but nothing crazy. Didn't ruin the trip by any means.
Okay, I need to brush up on some of that. I've been I've been telling my wife I would like to learn Spanish because I myself am Hispanic, but I failed Spanish 2 twice in high school. I've never been good at languages, but I was like, yeah, I'd like to learn Spanish, and she's like, yeah, that'd be really good. It's your heritage, and I was like, and I want to learn maybe Japanese, and she's like, oh, you just want to watch wrestling and be able to understand the languages of lucha and puroresu. That's what this is about. And I was like, yeah, it's pretty much it. We had another question for you from Dragon Master Adam. He says, any advice for first time Japan goers this January, both wrestling wise and then just generally?
Yeah, well, in terms of wrestling, as I say, it seems like it's a real task to get tickets for shows as an international. There is a couple of different ways once you get to Japan. It's obviously running the risk, if you don't get there, if you're looking to go to a show and you only get there the day before the show, you may not get tickets. For example, I only got to one pro wrestling show when I was there. It was the Noah M1 Victory final. I'm not a big Noah fan by any means, but I just wanted to go to a show in Corrigan Hall, to be honest. So
Right.
When we got there, there's just convenience stores that actually sell the tickets. They have like little machines in them.
Is it like
called machines.
Lawson's?
Yeah, Lawson's, that's the one. Or you can get them, and there's a lot of family marts, they're called. They have the machines as well. So basically, you can go in there and buy tickets for events. So that's pretty good. It's a pretty good system they have. I guess because we didn't get there to quite close to the show that I was trying to go to, we got sort of back of the house seats. But as you know, Corrigan's not that big, so we still, had a very good view. But yeah, I guess that would probably be the only problem if you're going to a show, like say you're going to Wrestle Kingdom, that might sell out. If you're not getting there until a day before the show, if you're not getting there till January 3rd, and you don't have a ticket, it's a bit of a risk. But aside from that.
Oh no, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Nope, sorry, I was finished.
I was just gonna say, Jeremy, he's in Norway, and I saw that he was on Messenger, and sometimes that's how me and him will chat. So he's on the Messenger one morning, and I'm like, okay, good. This guy's gone, but at least I can get a hold of him if I need something. And I sent him some messages and stuff, and he didn't read them, he didn't see them, and he's just been completely MIA, and it's been weeks now, so. I'm sure he's really enjoying his time away in Norway, but like the two of us didn't talk about the fact that the Wrestle Kingdom tickets were going on sale while he was gone. So I had to buy them, and we got good seats, but I don't know if he also bought tickets or not because we didn't talk. And I was like, I better just pony up and buy this shit so that we have them. And I don't know if I don't know if he bought them too. I don't know if he even remembered that they went on sale. Like, hopefully he didn't buy any, and then I'm looking like the good guy when it's all said and done. But I used the world, whatever they like, the website that they developed so that the outsiders like us could buy tickets, and it was really difficult.
Zach says, I was going to actually ask how you guys got your Wrestle Kingdom tickets. I know you've already said it's very difficult. I think it's actually easier if you're in the US compared to Europe. I think it's even more difficult. So it wasn't even an option for me when I was trying to get tickets.
Zach says, better safe than sorry. Yeah, so I used the website, and it's just asking so much information. Like at one point it wanted to know not only our like travel plans, but like who we were, which is fine, but it also wanted like all of our where we're staying, when we're going to be staying at different locations of the like whole time, like just stuff that you would never have to answer if you were just buying tickets to a show in the US. I'm like, dude, do you want my money or not? Like, so I thought that was really, I don't know, interesting. Zach says that's normal. Didn't seem normal to me.
When I tried to buy tickets online, they were asking me for a Japanese phone number and everything. And I was like, I can't do this. I don't have this information.
Yeah, we had to say where we're staying, when we're staying there, blah 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 blah. How many people are going to be in the party, and it's just kind of crazy. But with that being the case, though, I know one of the things that you really wanted to chat about was kind of the difference between Japanese pro wrestling culture, especially compared between like your experience in the UK and Ireland, and then, in Japan. And I know you wanted to chat about Tanahashi.
Yeah, I guess it was just such a shock to me because I live in Ireland, and I guess the pro wrestling scene's a little bigger in England and stuff than it is here, with Rev Pro and companies like that. But to be honest, here in Ireland, there's very little love for pro wrestling. So I haven't really been exposed to it, in terms of other people. I've always been a massive fan myself and stuff like that. But then I got over to Japan, and you just see so many people that are just, so happy to be pro wrestling fans and just, love talking about it and stuff, which
like
was just
on
a
the
real
streets.
Shock to me. Yeah, exactly.
Wow.
I actually met a few just people randomly, and more often than not, we somehow got around to talking about pro wrestling. It was great because, there's no one here in Ireland really that I can do that with. So yeah, it was really cool, and a few people I met in the Tokon shop in Tokyo, the official New Japan store, stuff like that, and we got chatting. And when I mentioned about Tanahashi, it's because I've sort of, if you speak to someone and you start talking about their favorite wrestler, they might turn up the passionate, the way they're talking a little. More than once, I thought it was a coincidence the first time, but more than once when I got talking about Tanahashi and his retirement coming up and stuff, people honestly speak about him like he is an actual god, and I was like, this is so cool that people feel like this about a pro wrestler.
That's
mentioned
awesome.
to a guy, I said, you've been a fan for a long time, and he said, yeah. I said, and Tanahashi finally retiring, and he actually started to tear up. He was so upset that Tanahashi was retiring. I was like, it was sad and pretty amazing to see at the same time. I was like, people care so much about this guy. I remember there was like not a line, but there were sort of different parts of the store, the Tokon shop, with different wrestlers, merch and stuff. And there was one sort of small queue forming, and it was because the staff in the store had just brought out Tanahashi t-shirts. People were like actually queuing up to get them. As like, this guy, I knew he was a big deal, but he really is over there, and I can't imagine what it's going to be like in January.
Yeah, I think I'll be tearing up a little bit. The funny thing is that people want to buy Tanahashi shirts, because I don't think in his entire career he's ever had a single shirt that I thought looked particularly good. There's one that I like that from around like 2012-ish, and it's black and white, and it's him up on the top turnbuckle, and he's doing the hand gesture. But on the back of it says High Flying Star, and I hate that it has that High Flying Star logo on the back of the shirt, and that's the main reason I've never purchased it. But most of his merch is terrible, so it's kind of funny that they're willing to look past that.
Just they love him that much. I agree with you. His current merch isn't great. I didn't buy any of it because it's not the nicest piece of clothing I've ever seen.
And I know that you while you were out there, you ran into or met Minoru Suzuki. Is that correct?
I did. That was probably one of the highlights of my whole trip, to be honest. My girlfriend was like, she was almost cringing at how much I was geeking out for Suzuki. She's like, who is this guy? I was like, I'll tell you all about him. So I don't know if you know, he has a store in Tokyo in Harajuku. And so I saw that, and I was sort of putting together a list of places I wanted to see while we were staying in that area. We stayed in Shinjuku for 4 nights, which is sort of not far from Harajuku. And as I say, with the trains, you can get around the city easy anyway. So I thought, okay, tomorrow we're going down to Harajuku, and I'm going to go to Minoru Suzuki's shop. With no intention of actually seeing him. I just I knew he owned it, and it had pro wrestling merch. So I thought, I'll go down and have a look. I did see on Reddit that someone said, oh yeah, he is there. Sometimes, you can run into him. I thought, it won't happen to me. Walked into the store. I was there quite early, so there was like no one else there. I walked into the store, it was just me and Minoru Suzuki standing there, and I was like, oh my goodness, what did I do? This man is as terrifying as I thought he was going to be. But of course,
was he giving you the eye?
Yeah, I don't think he can help it. He just that's his natural expression. But no, he of course isn't as scary when he's not in character. So
right.
I got talking to him because he was the only one there. It was a perfect opportunity. I was able to actually talk to him and stuff. So bought a T-shirt in a store so I could ask him for a picture, because I was scared in case I didn't buy a T-shirt, and I asked him and he said no. Sort of put me in a Gotch style pile driver or something. So I asked him a few questions. His English wasn't great, but we got through it. I asked him when was he next wrestling, and he said tomorrow, the next day in Saitama. And I tried to ask him who his favorite opponent was, but the language barrier was a bit of an issue there, and he sort of wasn't picking up what I meant by opponent. I was like, who's your favorite person to wrestle? Just sort of wasn't picking me up, so I just moved on.
I think what my friends have done in the past for the future is like we've used translators on the phone.
Yeah.
and done that, and that usually is mostly worked.
Yeah, I guess I didn't even think to pull out the translator. I was that in awe that Minoru Suzuki was standing in front of me. So, but yeah, no, he was really nice, and I was able to get a photo with him. Just outside his shop, he has like a big rainbow colored mural of himself. It's really cool. So we stood out in front of that and got a photo with him, so it was really cool. And yeah, he had a lot of nice of his own merch in the store. Some pictures of him in his younger days I thought was pretty cool. The picture of when he was the King of Pancrase and stuff, and there's lots of cool T-shirts and stuff. So yeah, and it was really cool meeting him just after watching him for so long, and then he's right there in front of me.
Yeah, I've got a couple. Buddy of mine was they were at the so the Tokon shop, that is New Japan's store, and then there's the other Tokon shop. Isn't that correct?
There's the Tokon shop is the official New Japan store. Yeah, it's in Tokyo. I think the other one you're thinking of, it's the Tudokan.
Tudokan, that's my bad. Yeah, so a friend of mine got me a couple fight posters from Tudokan back in the day. I think one is a Pancrase poster. Another one is one of the I forget. I think it's UWF. But yeah, I would love to go there and peruse some of the. I'm a huge fan of like early days, PWFG and Pancrase Suzuki. So that would be fucking sick.
Yeah, when you go in January, definitely go to the Tudokan shop. I know how much you like sort of the historic stuff, and you'll probably spend like hours in there like I did, because they have every kind of old memorabilia you can think of. It's amazing.
Now you mentioned that the only wrestling show you got to go to was the N1 Victory. Again, this is not a Noah podcast, so I actually don't even. I think I did see who won the N1. Was it Masaki Miya?
Yeah.
Okay. But tell us about that. You mentioned that the main reason you went was for the Cork and Hall experience. So, what was that like for you?
Yeah, similar to yourself, I'm not actually really a Noah fan at all. I was obviously aware of the tournament going on, and I obviously wanted to get to a New Japan show. Unfortunately, they weren't in the areas of Japan that I was in when I was in them. So it was a bit of a shame, but I was like, while I'm here, I need to get to one of the venues that I want to go to, and Ryogoku is probably my favorite, venue for wrestling in the world. So as much as I went to get to see it from the inside and out, but there was no event on, so it was really just seeing the building. I thought the next best, I definitely want to get to Cork and Hall. So got the tickets for the N1 Victory final, and to be honest, didn't even really know too many people, particularly on the undercard. It was good to see. It was cool to see Kenta and stuff like that. And there was a junior tag title match, was actually pretty good. It was just before the main. Yeah, it was just before the tournament final. In terms of the card, it was okay, but it was great to actually get to Corkin and experience a wrestling show there.
And any key takeaways from being in Cork and Hall? Anything that that you wanted to experience, or that you took away from being there in the hallowed grounds?
Nothing really that I didn't expect. I went in and it's very much like just like a school gym, but with like incredible aura, kind of, if that makes sense. It was cool, and as I say, because it's quite a small venue, you can sit anywhere in there, and you get a pretty good view. I would go back to Kirkin if I was back in Japan. I would definitely recommend it. But it's a bit of a shame that New Japan weren't running a show while I was there. I obviously would have enjoyed that a lot more, because I would have had that investment in the show itself. If I ever go back to Japan, I'm going to plan it around a New Japan show in Corkin.
Yeah, I'm taking a look at the N1 Victory. So this was just the other week. This was September 23rd. And it looks like that junior tag match that you talked about. So that was All Rebellion, Alejandro, and Kai Fujimara. They were defeated by Alpha Wolf and Dragon Bane, the champions. And that one looks like it has a pretty high rating. And it looks like a lot of people liked the Masaki Kitamiya Jack Morris final as well, huh?
To be honest, I wasn't that into the final. I didn't think it was great. they got about 20 minutes, and I just don't know. I don't think they maybe utilized that time the best, and I probably could have went, half of that, to be honest. But yeah, it was fine. It wasn't a bad match by any means. And a tournament final always has that sort of extra intensity, and the crowd were a little more into it than anything else. What was quite funny that when Minoru Suzuki came out, I think it was one of the last matches, and challenged Vegeta. And I was just like, I seen this guy like 3 days ago at his shop. I was like trying to wave and shout at him, see if he remembered me, but he didn't see me.
What Fujita did he challenge? Kazuyuki Fujita?
Yeah, Kazuyuki Fujita was in a tag match on the card, and Suzuki just came out of nowhere after. So it's a pretty cool surprise.
Zach, he's tuned in, and he's in our comments right here. He's giving you the disappointed face, because even though he's a big Naito fan, he is more of a Noah fan than he is New Japan Shinihan these days. So he's giving you
really?
He's giving you the side eye. So
sorry about that.
The last thing that we want to talk about, we'll get you out of here. So KOPW is coming up. This is kind of like the last really big stop before Wrestle Kingdom. And, we're waiting for this card to kind of come together. We've got a few like tidbits and pieces. How are you feeling about where things are? What are your predictions? Where do you see things heading as we prepare for, this final quarter of the year going into the Dome?
Yeah, it's looking probably better in the last maybe, 2 to 3 weeks than it was at the end of the G1, for example. I'm a bit more hopeful. I think seeing those ticket sales is like, if it's not a wake-up call for New Japan that the card has to live up to that, then I don't know. I mean, they probably could just rest everything on Tanahashi's retirement, but if they're going to have a great attendance at the Dome, you have to try and bolster that card. You have to try and have, you have to have multiple big singles matches on that to make it, worth it for if there's going to be 40,000 people, I guess they're projecting, maybe more. So I'm looking forward to King of Pro Wrestling. I think that card shaped up quite well. So I would probably say I'm quietly positive for Wrestle Kingdom coming up.
Nice. Any final predictions that you have? I know that coming up next Monday, we'll probably start to see some of that fall into place, and we'll get some big reveals. That's usually what happens at this point. But what do you think, and where do you see how do you see things landing for the Dome right now?
Well, I think I've thought now for a while that Tanahashi will announce his opponent at King of Pro Wrestling. I think it'll just be a sort of parallel to how last year at King of Pro Wrestling he announced that he was retiring. I just think that's something they're going to go for. So it may only be another few days until we find out, and I'm really not sure who it could be. That's obviously probably the biggest booking decision they have is who do they put against Tanahashi, closely followed by who are they going to put in the title match. And to be honest, I'm not as sure Takeshita's going to walk out of Ryogoku with the belt as a lot of people are. I think maybe if Zack holds onto the belt, it opens up a few more doors than it would Takeshita, for a couple of reasons, being Zack, if they're not going to go on last, if you're going to assume the Tanahashi main events, Zack doesn't have that pressure of having the main event the Dome that didn't exactly go to plan last year. And obviously, if Zack keeps the belt, he's going to be on the tours, coming up to the Dome. Takeshita probably won't be if history tells us, if he wins the belt, he could probably disappear for a while, and that doesn't exactly help build the title match. So yeah, as you say, I think come Monday a lot more pieces are going to come into place. You're going to see some of the bigger matches at least have the groundwork laid for them. There's obviously Iron Wolf's debut as well. They still have to unveil what's going to happen there. So no, I think you sort of have to wait till Monday until you get a bit more concrete planning going forward.
Nice. Yeah, I agree. I got my fingers crossed. I'm hoping because he's in the country, the unthinkable happens and Nakamura comes out in Sumo Hall next week. But that remains to be seen. Luke, thanks so much for coming on the show. Thank you for your time. Do you have any plugs that you want to share with with the listenership?
I don't really have any plugs, no, just my Twitter at Destino's Child. If you want some questionable wrestling takes, I'd head over there. Yeah, that's the only thing. Thank you very much to you and Jeremy for having me on. It's great to be on, as I say, after listening for so long.
Yeah, well, we'd love to have you back when we'll reconvene when we get Jeremy back here in the States, and we'll figure out some other time. Last thing before you go, best food recommendation for me and Jeremy for January.
Oh, okay. There's a chain of conveyor belt sushi restaurants called Sushi Row.
Ooh.
You'll see them everywhere. So they're not only are they like so convenient because you just go to your table with a little tablet, get whatever sushi you want, but the sushi is amazing as well as that. It's really, really good quality stuff. So, and they're not hard to find. There's lots of them, particularly in Tokyo. So I would definitely advise you to try a Sushi Row.
Nice. Well, thank you so much for your time here, Luke. We will definitely have you back, and you take care and have a great night, and I'll take over the rest of the show.
Okay. Thanks very much, young boy. All the best.
Take care. All right. Well, thank you to Luke for coming on the show. Let's jump into things here. So, wanted to mention this earlier, but, I didn't want to leave Luke hanging for too long. So, the September match and wrestler of the month. And since Jeremy's not here, the inmates are running the asylum. So I'm going to, unilaterally make this decision on my own. And, I'm giving the match of the month for September to the Shinichi champion, generational tag team 8-man tag with Fujita, Oiwa, Umina, and Yumura versus Taguchi, Taichi, Ishii, and Zack Sabre Jr. I gave a pretty good recommendation to that match last week when MJ was on the show. If you haven't seen it, this is your official notice. You need to go out of your way and check that match out. I know it was on a pay-per-view, but whatever you got to do, trust me, you want to see that match. And then for the wrestler of the month, we are doing, it's not unprecedented. In fact, we've done this many times in the past, but it is few and far between. We are awarding wrestler of the month to a tag team, and it probably is no surprise to most of you that tag team is the team of the Knockout Brothers, Oscar and Yuto Ice, returning from excursion. Not only have they, recently gained the IWGP tag team titles in their first outing and challenge for those belts, but they've just torn it up night after night all throughout the Road to tours for Destruction, and had, really, really great chemistry in matches with Taichi and Ishii, and were one of the highlights of the entire tour. So, yeah, wrestler of the month, Oscar and Yuto Ice. Now, let's get into the review portion of things. So, on Saturday, October 4th, we started the Road to King of Pro Wrestling 2025, night one from Hiratsuka General Gymnasium. We had an attendance of 777. We're going to kind of focus more on the preview for this show and probably the review of today's big main event, but I'll give you the rundown of the results from both of these shows that we're going to preview. So the show opened with a pre-show match. Katsuyori Murashima and Tetsuya Matsumoto, they defeated the team of Masatori Yasuda and Zane J 7 minutes and 58 seconds. When Murashima put on the Boston Crab to sub Zane J and pick up the big 1-2-3 there. A lot of heat between these young lions from different sort of generational classes. Again, they're still focusing on the senpai-kohai relationships that are here, but really focusing on commentary about how all of these guys are rearing to go. The space is getting cramped in the dojo. A lot of guys are getting antsy, and they're kind of looking to break out. And I don't know if that means people leaving for excursion soon, or if that means perhaps they bring back the Young Lion Cup, which we haven't done since just before the pandemic, when Carl Fredericks, DJ Carl, was the first foreigner to ever win that tournament. So we'll see where that kind of leads things, but a lot of good fire here. The opener for the show, Shota Umino stepped into singles action as he took on Daiki Nagai, 9 minutes and 41 seconds. He picked up the win over Nagai via lariat and pinfall at the mark. Daiki Nagai was basically just dominated by Shota Umino, but showing a lot of resilience and showing a lot of fire all throughout the match. And I think the fact that he went almost 10 minutes with a guy that has challenged multiple times for the IWGP title and headlined the Dome was sort of a victory in and of itself. This served as a preview match to Shota Umino basically warming up for his singles match against Oscar, the following show of the tour. The second match of the evening, we had the Bullet Club War Dogs team, Clark Connors and Drilla Maloney. They wrestled to a draw versus the House of Torture team of Sonata and Yoshinobu Kanemaru. 5 minutes and 2 seconds. This match ended via double countout. The highlight of the match is the ongoing feud between Drilla Maloney and Sonata as they're preparing for a major singles match at King of Pro Wrestling. Their interactions have been sincerely out of hand, just brawling all over the building, really giving no regard for the rules or regard for the referees or anything like that. A lot of cheating, a lot of brawling on the outside, and these have been pretty spirited and ended in a double countout where both guys got counted out pretty quickly. Post-match, the four of these guys continued to fight, even as security tried to separate them. So they're building to that match for the pay-per-view. The third match of the main card, we had El Phantasmo and Jado as they defeated Hiroshi Tanahashi and Shomakato. ELP hit the Thunder Kiss 86 and the pinfall victory over Shomakato, 10 minutes and 2 seconds. And this is a preview match for Tanahashi and El Phantasmo as they step into Ryogoku Sumo Hall. And ELP will be defending the TV title against Tanahashi. I think one of the highlights of this little preview feud has been the kind of good-spirited natured, good guy versus good guy, fan favorite versus fan favorite in these preview tags. And from time to time, they've been getting silly and playing air guitar and air drum, stuff like that. So we'll see if it gets a little bit more serious when the time comes and the gold is on the line. But the fourth match of the evening here, El Desperado, he came to the match debuting his new tag team partner, Kukai, who is a trainee from Michinoku Pro. He's spent many years in the Mexican luchador indies and is being brought in for this Super Juniors tour to be the special guest tag team partner of El Desperado. He teamed up with Oleg Boltin, Tiger Mask, and Toru Yano. They defeated the House of Torture team of Dick Togo, Don Fale, Doki, Evil, and Sho. When Kukai hit the, I'm going to try and pronounce this, I probably am going to say it wrong, but the Cancion de Cuna at 9 minutes and 23 seconds over Dick Togo and picked up the pinfall victory. So pretty impressive outing for Kukai, a guy that is endearing himself to the New Japan audience and trying to make a good impression. And there is a bit of a story here where right now, obviously Desperado, he is feuding with Doki. The entire reason that Doki was brought into New Japan in the first place was, back in like 2019 when Desperado got his jaw broken in a death match against his first death match against Jun Kasai on one of those Taichi, Despi, Taka, whatever shows. And he was unable to compete in the Super Juniors tour, and he vouched for and endorsed Doki to take his spot, a guy from the luchador indies who is Japanese, who trained in Japan and then went over to Mexico. So there's kind of these parallels there. And the whole reason that Doki even got a shot at the big time in Japan was due to El Desperado. And now that these guys are feuding with one another, I think him plucking Kukai out of the slums, as we like to say, the Mexican dirt floor wrestling, as you will, there's probably an allusion to the idea that it mirrors the exact same path and is a reminder to Doki of where he came from. So very impressed with Kukai here. I think he made a good connection with the crowd, good impression, and that takes us to the next match. So the fifth match of the evening, the Knockout Brothers, Oscar and Yuto Ice, they defeated the tag team of Tomoaki Hanma and Yuya Uemura when Oscar hit the sleeper hold on Hanma for a ref stoppage at 14 minutes and 7 seconds. And the highlight of this match was Yuto Ice and Yuya Uemura, the feud that has been really just heating up massively between these two guys. Going back, and we alluded to it last week, the the heat that exists between these two guys, it really stems from when Yuto Ice first made his debut as a young lion, and he had a preview match against Yuya Uemura, and early on in the match got injured, severely hurt his elbow, and was out from the company for an extended period of time before he could return. Huge detrimental setback to his progress and his career. And they've really kind of made that the story of the match. Like, yes, there is this other thing going on where it's like, can Yuya Uemura and Shota Umino, can they gel as a team and be these hot young studs from Hantai who can coexist and, regain the titles? But at the same time, there's a more personal issue taking place between Yuto Ice and Yuya Uemura. And post-match, these guys just brawled. And I know that they had some post-match brawling earlier in the evening, but this really upped the ante and was extremely violent and kept getting broken up and kept re-engaging. And the Young Lions were unable to keep these guys from one another, and they ended up brawling all over the building into the back. And I thought that it did a great job setting the tone for what was to come between those two guys on the following show. And then that takes us to the main event of the evening when Hiromu Takahashi, Shingo Takagi, Titan, and Yota Tsuji, so the team of unaffiliated, they're not in any sort of faction, they defeated the Bullet Club War Dog team of David Finlay, Gabe Kidd, Geto, and Taiji Ishimori when Yota Tsuji hit the Gene Blaster for the pinfall victory over Gato, 13 minutes and 22 seconds. The main highlight of the evening were the interactions between both Gabe Kidd and Yota Tsuji in leading up to the preview for their global title match, which will take place next Monday at King of Pro Wrestling. So earlier today, we had the second night of the Road to King of Pro Wrestling take place from Korakuen Hall. A reported attendance of 1,161 in the building. I don't know that is actually the case, just because there was a lot of empty seats in the building. And really, realistically, I don't know that is an actual number that they achieved. There were plenty of empty seats. There was a darkened house. And they were at a point where I don't know that is a legit number, which is a little bit disheartening, just considering that there was a big title match on the line at the top of the card. And the fact that, they recently just did one of the biggest post-pandemic drawing shows for Stardom in the same building. And when you kind of compare the business that New Japan has been doing in Korakuen Hall, comparatively speaking to some of these other companies, I don't know that it's on the same level. So with that being the case, it is a little bit disheartening. They try to cover it up a little bit because they had a lot of the house lights down and kind of brought them up intermittently. One other thing too I wanted to mention is I didn't talk extensively, but that other show from Hirasaku, they did the post-match comments, and the lighting for it was one of the most horrendous things you've ever seen. Like, literally, they had just like the teensiest, tiniest spotlight on those guys, and you could barely make out who was who and what was what. And for a major league company like New Japan to not even carry like a $20 ring light with them in their production trucks, there's no really any excuse for that. So that was a little bit surprising there. But the attendance here, I don't know. It's a little suspect to me. Didn't look like to me they had over, close to 1,200 people in the building, but that remains to be seen. So earlier today, the show opened with the pre-show match. Again, the Young Lions, Masatori Yasuda, Zane J. This time they defeated the team of Shomakato and Tatsuya Matsumoto, 7 minutes and 41 seconds, when Yasuda hit the Boston Crab submission on Matsumoto. The opener of the evening, we had Hiroshi Tanahashi and Katsuya Murashima. They defeated the team of El Phantasmo and Jado at 9 minutes and 17 seconds when Hiroshi Tanahashi was able to hit the high fly flow and pin on Jado. Murashima is currently the ringside attendant personally to Tanahashi, so there was kind of some good gelling between those two guys that took place here, and I liked the fact that they allowed him to hit the power slam on Jado to set up the victory for Tanahashi. And again, a lot of shenanigans going on with air guitars and air drums and everything like that. The second match of the evening, we saw the Bullet Club War Dogs team of Clark Connors and Drilla Maloney. They picked up a victory over the House of Torture team of Sonata and Yoshinobu Kanemaru at 4 minutes and 20 seconds. So fast and furious, very short. This match was won by ring out when Maloney, the legal man in the ring, picked up the countout victory over Sonata. This was the result of these two guys, again, brawling all over the place, going into the ring, ref bumps, and both guys looking to bend the rules and cheat. Sonata came in with his guitar and was about to strike Drilla Maloney, and instead Drilla kicked him in the groin for the low blow, and that just sent Sonata out of the ring, and he said enough of this. He went into the crowd. He had no intention of coming back and forfeited the match basically to count out. Post-match, Maloney got on the mic. He cut a promo in both Japanese and English and basically said that their upcoming match next week, because neither of them wants to deal with countouts, they don't want to deal with no contests or rules or referees, they're going to make it a no DQ and no countout match and kind of up the ante. And it's been interesting how Drilla Maloney has been talking about how he is going to retire Sonata and that this is his funeral. So some pretty serious intentions and implications heading into this match with Sonata between these two guys. And you kind of have to wonder if the fact that we're getting a special singles match between these two individuals is perhaps potentially leading to some sort of major singles title match. Most likely, I wouldn't say it would be on like the global level, but it could be something to set up a future TV title shot or even potentially a never title shot. So we'll see where that kind of takes us. The third match of the evening, the House of Torture team of Dick Togo, Don Fale, Evil, and Sho, they defeated the team of Kukai, Oleg Boltin, Tiger Mask, and Toriano, 7 minutes and 30 seconds. This took place when Sho hit the shock arrow and pinfall victory over Tiger Mask. Needless to say, there was a lot of shenanigans and cheating going on here. The main purpose of what's going on in these matches, this served as a preview match for Evil and Oleg Boltin, their upcoming never openweight title match at King of Pro Wrestling. And then you also had Sho opposite Kukai. And here in the very near future, the principals of the main event, Desperado and Doki, they will all kind of reconnect with these two tag team partners and be headlining a Road To show for the IWGP Junior Tag Team title. So it's a preview of sorts for that match as well. The fourth match of the main card, you had Hiromu Takahashi, Shingo Takagi, Titan, and Yota Tsuji. They picked up another win, so kind of picking up some momentum here. They defeated the Bullet Club War Dog team of David Finlay, Gabe Kidd, Geto, and Taiji Ishimori, 7 minutes, 8 seconds. This match was over when Hiromu hit the Trauma and pinfall victory over Geto. And if you're not familiar with the Trauma, this is one of, if not the finisher for Eita. As I said earlier in the show, I'm not the most knowledgeable or biggest Noah connoisseur, but my understanding that this is one of his primary finishing maneuvers. He recently won a match over in Noah using the time bomb. So he was kind of borrowing and paying tribute to Hiromu, and Hiromu said, I like your new finisher. Anything that you can do, I can do better. So this was a shout out to his upcoming rival for the big Noah Sumo Hall show that takes place a couple days before KOPW. And again, the standout and the highlight of these matches remains to be Yota Tsuji and Gabe Kidd. And there's a lot of other kind of questions circling around, the existence of unaffiliated, and then Titan is back in the mix. You kind of have to wonder with him being on the tour. It looks like him and Hiromu are a lock, most likely, for Super Junior Tag League, and they're opposite of Geto and Taiji Ishimori. Taiji Ishimori is going to be in that tournament. I assume more than likely they'll probably team him up with Clark Connor. So we're kind of seeing some of that field, come to fruition at this point in time. The fifth match of the night, and this kind of goes into the business end of things. So we had our first of 3 singles matches at the top of the card when Shota Umino defeated Oscar at 16 minutes and 4 seconds. He picked up the victory here via the second chapter and the pinfall victory. I thought this match was pretty good. A good opportunity to again play preview to the upcoming tag team title match between these guys. But you have Shota Umino, who has a wealth more bit of experience over Oscar, who has the power, the size, and maybe a striking advantage over Shota Umino. And it was sort of a cat and mouse sort of situation. And then eventually Shota Umino was able to use his wiles and, kind of use his greater technique to his advantage to kind of work things out. Oscar, at this point in time, he hasn't competed too extensively since his return as a singles act. So we're still sort of trying to figure out exactly what his finisher looks like. And it looks like he's focusing quite a bit on that sleeper hold submission, which I think that's great. A lot of guys, it's been a while since I've seen someone at the top of a company use this sleeper hold. I think the last most prominent example might have been like MJF. So yeah, Oscar is trying to get that move over. He utilized it several times with varying degrees of success, but ultimately Shota Umino was able to pick up some big power moves over this guy. He hit a German suplex. He hit a big body slam that he struggled for, and down the stretch he was able to hit his huge lariat and then the second chapter for the pinfall victory. And contrary to my belief last week, I thought we would see some form of a Paul Heyman special, and that isn't what took place here, and I think that's kind of better. We had what was the semi-main event, and in my opinion, the best match of the evening, where we saw the culmination of this heated personal issue between Yuya Uemura and Yuto Ice, and Uemura was able to pick up the pinfall victory over Yuto Ice, 15 minutes, 29 seconds. He won this match via Kimura submission to defeat Yuto Ice. So we saw the challengers here in singles action defeating the newly crowned IWGP Tag Team Champions. Some much needed momentum heading into Sumo Hall to kind of prove their superiority as singles wrestlers at this iteration of their career. And I really, really liked this match. There was some really incredible striking exchanges between Uemura and Yuto Ice. You could tell that the history between these guys and the heat that exists really came through on the mat and on the screen. And on commentary, they were talking about how Yuto Ice has been able to elicit a fiery response from Yuya Uemura that even Yota Tsuji and others have not been able to get that sort of response from him. So I think that as much as this is benefiting Yuto Ice and giving him and Oscar some much needed reps and exposure, I think it's also doing wonders for Uemura as well, because he's getting fired up. There's a personal rivalry taking place, and there's an issue at hand. And I loved the idea that Yuto Ice, he took this guy to the outside. He hit the Bombaclat knee through one of the Japanese tables, which was pretty awesome and very effective. But the story of the match became Oscar's strikes versus Yuya Uemura's focus on the arm. And again, this is the same taped up arm that was injured several years ago during their first encounter. And there even was some blood that was coming out of the bandage. I don't know if that was intentional or hard way or what have you, but it became a good selling point for Yuto Ice and a bullseye for Yuya Uemura. And then eventually he was able to put him in several very dangerous arm-related submissions, but eventually he was able to pick up the pinfall victory with a major Kimura and a submission win. And so that was very definitive and kind of put a stamp on their claim to being the number one contenders as for the tag team titles. We did have a question here. First question of the show for me from Careford13. He says, was it a good decision to beat both of your tag team champions on today's show? And I think it absolutely was. I know some people probably feel differently, but tag team specialists and guys that are just returning from excursion who have relatively limited singles experience, I don't think it would have made a lot of sense for them to both or even just one of them pick up a major singles victory over guys like that are as established as Uemura and Shota Umino. But they did give them very tough battles. They did look very good. They got their shit in. They didn't look like slouches, and they didn't get buried. And I think that this is going to be a story of two guys who excel as singles wrestlers who are probably going to somewhat struggle to be on the same level as the tag team specialists come next week. So, yeah, in no way do I think that them losing here took any shine off them. If anything, I thought it was a good learning experience. And the crowd, the one thing I noticed is that during the first of those two matches, the crowd was reactive to many of the things that Oscar did, but more aligned with and enthusiastic about Shota Umino. But during this match, there was dueling chants. The commentary has had to acknowledge the kind of like underground swell of support that sort of exists for Yuto Ice. So even though I've heard some pundits and commentators kind of question the gimmick and question how far a guy like Yuto Ice can go with something like this, he's garnering the fan support that's needed. So I think he's going to make believers out of some people that currently are not so. Anyways, that's going to take us to your main event of the evening, which was I watched just shortly before recording this. It was the IWGP Junior Heavyweight title as it was defended and on the line. And we saw the challenger, believe it or not, Doki. He defeated El Desperado for the championship title in 17 minutes and 17 seconds via referee stoppage when he was able to secure the Doki Choki on El Desperado. There's more to that story than just that. But, going into this match, El Desperado, a 5-time IWGP Junior Heavyweight champion, 667 days total as champion up to this point, and then 14 total successful defenses. Now, when you look at those stats, this was his 5th reign, and he had a 275-day reign. So, that is a huge, almost half the chunk of all of his total days as champion in just one reign alone. That kind of tells you the importance of this one. And this was going to be his 9th title defense. When he succeeded in hitting V8, he tied Liger for the second most defenses in a single reign ever. But the record is held by Heat / Minoru Tanaka at 11. So he still had a ways to go. And a lot of people were sort of speculating that that's where we were headed with Desperado. Another thing that I learned that I wasn't aware of, and I don't think they highlight it too much on commentary, but right now El Desperado is the oldest, or was the oldest reigning junior champion in history at 41 years old. And I wasn't really aware that that was the case, but apparently it is. So, one of those tricks, you got that mask on and it kind of does wonders, hides the age. So it is what it is. But Doki going into this match, he's a one-time former champion. He was champion last year for 183 days. He had 4 successful defenses, and then he lost the title due to injury in the Tokyo Dome against El Desperado. So it's been all the way back since January 4th, the last time Desperado dropped this belt. And right now he's currently one half of the IWGP Junior Tag Team Champion. So in winning this match, it makes him a double champion. And I'm a little perplexed at why we've decided to do this title change at this point in time and juncture. The match itself was okay. Doki came out. I think a lot of people were kind of questioning why they were even doing a match of this potential magnitude when many people saw it as being worthy of going back to the Dome with this match once again. And instead they chose to do it here in Corkin. And with that being the case, because of the fact that Desperado had such a successful and lengthy title reign, and Doki, even though he is one half of the champions, he didn't come back to huge fanfare. He hasn't been given a huge push in terms of like being able to have multiple meaningful singles junior matches since his return. And House of Torture is House of Torture. So when him and Show are in there, regardless of whether he can still go or not, that's not on display. So there was already sort of this kind of, I want to say, underswell of apathy about this match, where people were sort of disappointed because it's like, we want to love this match. There's so much history and things to enjoy about it, but they chose to put it on this stage. It's on a road to, it's on a Monday. Desperado's definitely not dropping the title. And I think it's more for like the hardcores who are really invested in this particular matchup that there was still some level of excitement, but the fact that the marketing and the creative behind it wasn't what people were hoping for was a little bit disappointing, and that might account for the number that we saw here heading into this show. With that being said, the match itself was okay. Desperado came out. House of Torture was flanking him. Red Shoes demanded that the rest of them go to the back and that Desperado fight, or that Doki fight Desperado sans House of Torture. And it seemed he was going to do just that. And we recently saw a House of Torture tag team title match without any interference. So it would reason to stand that maybe that's what we would see here. I thought that Doki and Desperado had a solid match. Maybe just trending slightly above the Oscar and Shota Umino match. But for whatever reason, these guys seemed to be apprehensive. They weren't going all out. It didn't ever seem to get out of second gear. And eventually we got to a point where basically there was a ref bump. Desperado gets Doki into the numero dos. Looks like he has him in major trouble, and then this is the point. And actually, I don't even know if the ref bump had happened yet, to be honest with you. But either way, this is what elicited the House of Torture cohorts to come out and interfere in the match. The referee did get bumped, and Desperado is fighting off the numbers. The crowd is groaning. I don't know that this was the right kind of heat that you want to see in a segment like this, but eventually Doki comes in with the bent pipe. Desperado is able to get his hands on it. I did like the shots that he gave to Doki in the head. Looked like he knocked him out. Looked like he was on his way to potentially picking up a victory, but for whatever reason, you got Red Shoes still bumbling on the outside. He hits the Pinche Loco. There's no ref. There's nobody to make the count. And then the other guys from House of Torture come in. They jump Desperado. Doki makes Desperado was actually hit with the chair from Show. Doki makes the recovery. He puts Desperado in the Doki Choki, the Italian stretch number 2. And then Show carries out that piece of sheet metal that he'd brought out to a match previously, and he just starts hitting Desperado in the head with it multiple times. Desperado goes limp. They go and revive Red Shoes. They put him in the ring. He checks on Desperado. He's completely out cold, and he just awards the match to Doki. And regardless of whether the match was good, this was a situation where the finish of the match was so bad that it pretty much negated any goodwill or good work that had been done prior to it earlier in the evening. And it got to a point where, like, it just was sort of sad to see a title reign like this end the way that it did. I know that there were questions about where Desperado would go from here and who else he had left to beat. I get that, but at the same time, to be so close to this kind of legendary title record and to hold off on pulling the trigger, this is the second time they've done that. They did it a couple years ago with Hiromu as well. And then to sort of end it the way that they did in an anticlimactic fashion that wasn't really booming to business, I kind of have to question the reasoning behind this. Now, I know that some people probably believe that this is a means to build a rematch between them in the Tokyo Dome. And my question to you is, why do they have to do it this way when they could have just brought Doki back with fanfare, built him up, and marketed the match in a way that people would want to see it? And I don't know that even with all the history and everything like that, that I believe that the match is going to be any better in the Tokyo Dome, or that I'm more enthused or excited to see it if that is in fact the direction that they're going. But Doki, your new IWGP Junior Heavyweight Champion 2 times now, and double Junior Champion in the company. We did get a lot of questions here. I'm going to go through them. Death Triangle 720 says, what are your thoughts of the junior title not being defended on any big show this year outside of Wrestle Kingdom? And we talked about that last week, and I think it's questionable. I do enjoy and like the idea that juniors get to headline shows, but when it's only the Road to Go Home shows or Road to level shows of smaller houses, and then they're never, and I'm okay with them doing that in addition to them also being featured on the big shows, but when they're kind of segregated to just this smaller stage, I find it to be very questionable, especially with the lineage and the importance of a title like the IWGP Junior Heavyweight title. I don't know who's necessarily behind it. We've heard rumors. I'll leave it at that. Okay Conversation 9418 asked, I can't think of another reason to have Doki challenge now other than to give him the title because Despy's hurting. And he asked this question before the title change, and I kind of question whether that is in fact the reason that they did this, because there's no clear signs or indications that Desperado is taking any breaks in the near future. He's got a title match coming up just next week, and then he is right on the tour, which is a pretty lengthy tour for the junior Super Junior Tag League with Kukai. Maybe he's taking some time off after that, but I doubt he's missing the Tokyo Dome, and we're going to be knee deep in November. So I don't think that the reason they took the title off of him is because he's hurt. I think they did it because they're running out of creative ideas. They don't have a big match lined up for the Dome, and Gato is a fiend for heat. And when I tell you that I don't think this was good heat, people were emptying and walking out of their seats early during the House of Torture promo at the tail end of the show. That never happens. I mean, the last time I remember people doing that was when was the tail end of the Okada and Chris Jericho match in Sumo Hall, which was also kind of a strange atmosphere. So I'm very questionable about this tactic and the fact that they've gone to the well with this sort of behavior and this sort of booking and match structure so many times. I think it's potentially wearing out its welcome. Careford13 says, now that we know the results of the junior title match, does Master Wato turn around and challenge for the belt at the Dome? They have both discussed fighting at the Dome for years against one another. They are both not at the position that they should be, but I'm not against it at all. And I doubt it, because it would seem so strange to have built up Desperado all year for him to just sit this one out in the Tokyo Dome. I think that there is potentially on paper money in the rematch, so we'll see. But I think your aspirations for Wato are a little bit lofty, especially since he just got his ass beat by an old Tanahashi. Careford13 also asked, is New Japan allergic to records if your name is not Tanahashi or Okada? I'm referring to the records that Goto and Desperado were chasing when they were champions and they failed to succeed. And he might have something there. I mean, one of the things that friend of the show, Chris Samsa, pointed out when they started changing over the titles a couple of years ago was that it sort of resets a lot of the unattainable and unbreakable records that existed in this company and sort of set things over for a new generation. But they've been hesitant to pull the trigger on pushing any of these guys to give them that rub. So yeah, maybe there is something to them being hesitant. And we already know that this is a very conservative company. They don't like to take chances. And they probably are reticent to break some of their records. Although they have no problem throwing out the IWGP lineage, but that's neither here nor there. Careford13 also asks, I apologize. Rambone Slam Pig says, are the results of today's junior title match somewhat predictable based on the need to set up a return match at Wrestle Kingdom? It seemed crazy to run this big match on a small show rather than at the Dome. And I think he's right in line with what I was thinking and what many other people are probably thinking in hindsight. The final question here, Slut for Instant Noodles Devin asked, what do you think the Junior Dome match will be now? Despy was running out of interesting challengers, but I can't think of anyone I want to see from the House of Torture era Doki for him to face in the Dome. And I think a lot of people are assuming right now that this is leading to a singles rematch. But then again, it is 2025 Gato booking and the IWGP committee, and who the fuck knows? Because every time I think they should do something cool, by and large, they do the opposite, and I am stunned at a lot of the decisions that they make. So on paper, it looks like that's what they should be doing. Who knows if that's actually what takes place? That's going to take us to another show that took place. I touched base on this last week. So there was the NJPW Stardom historic crossover in Guangzhou from Sunday, October 5th at the Demai 66 Live House in Guangzhou, China. I had questions last week about why the fuck they even called this show historic crossover when that is a very successful, marketable, and proven track record brand that they've used for many years in Japan, to turn around and use that same branding on a show in China that up to this point, we don't know if we'll ever be able to see it. I'm assuming at some point a video of demand version of it will come to light, but by the time that makes tape, no one is going to want to watch it. And at this current time, it's 7:30 p.m. October 6th. I still don't know who won any of these matches. There was some social media posts that came out yesterday from Stardom saying that the event had taken place, but that they were going to post the results later the following day. And it's been well over 24 hours and there still has been no results posted. So I really can't give you too much about this show. The one thing I will say though is Zack Sabre Jr. did have a pretty somewhat marketed or pushed match between him and Kushida for this show. And I did see images of Zack Sabre Jr. celebrating post-match with his title. It was a non-title match, but one has to assume that Zack Sabre Jr. probably beat Kushida. I don't know any details other than the fact that Zack was successful on the show. And by the time Jeremy comes back next week, we've got bigger fish to fry. So I don't know that we'll ever talk about that show ever again. So let's get into the preview section of the show here. So tomorrow, October 7th, Tuesday, the NJPW Superman Taiji Ishimori is More Reckless Cork and Hall show is going to take place. Let's see if that show actually outdraws today's Cork and Hall for New Japan. I'd almost kind of count on it, but who knows? There will be an Iron Man Rumble match. It's going to be 120 minutes. And I'm going to read you these rules. They're highly convoluted. This is a show that is essentially a New Japan sponsored produce show for Taiji Ishimori. So there are essentially 4 rules for what this event/match is going to be. So the Rumble is going to take place over 4 blocks, and each one's going to contain 8 entrants. Ishimori is going to be entrant number 1 in each of the blocks and is the only entrant to be in for the full 2-hour matchup. And so essentially the eliminations in each match are going to be via pinfall, submission, knockout, or over the top rope. But Ishimori will be scored throughout. So he can't be eliminated. He just either gains or loses points. He gets 1 point per elimination and he loses 1 point every time he gets eliminated, but he must immediately re-enter the match. There is a caveat to that. At up to 2 points throughout the entire match, Ishimori can substitute himself for one of the reserves and bring one of those men that he has a common Toryumon past with. Those reserves would be Toro, Nohashi, or the Baramon brothers, Shu and Kai. The substitution can only last through the end of the current block, with Ishimori having to start the next. Additionally, any points and losses will be counted to Ishimori's total. So if he goes up 2 points in a block, he can substitute himself out, bring in one of these reserves, but then any wins or losses that they suffer in the match, they're treated like Ishimori for the remainder of the block, and any wins and losses that they suffer or gain apply to Ishimori himself. And then finally, at the end of the bout, should Ishimori have a winning record, he will advance to a final Mucha match, which is a 10-minute singles match with the respected, not him, opponent. So basically, you're seeing 4 mini matches all within one, and then one final singles match. So Block 1 is going to be an Ironman Rumble Dragon block match, which is going to feature Ishimori, Shingo Takagi, and Dragon Dia. All the wrestlers who are in the match are going to be Dragon related. The second match is going to be an Ironman Rumble muscle block match with Ishimori, Sho, Hayo. It's going to be big muscular, buff dudes taking on Ishimori. The third match is going to be the Ironman Tohoku region block match. This is going to feature the Great Sasuke, Yo, Mao wrestlers from the Tohoku region will be in that match. And then the fourth one is an Ironman secret block match. All bets are off. You don't know who's going to be in that match. And then finally, if Ishimori finishes with the winning record, he'll take on somebody who is respected in the finals. I wonder if it's going to be Jun Kasai again. So I don't know how seriously we're going to cover that. That's almost a non-canon event, but by the time that this show makes air, should have already occurred, and we will be getting some news about that. This coming week, we have 2 nights of Road to action. October 9th from Komatsu General Gymnasium in Ishikawa, night 3 of King of Pro Wrestling. We have Kato and Matsumoto taking on Murashima and Zayn J. Yuya Yamura takes on Daiki Nagai in singles action. House of Torture, Sonata and Kanemaru take on Clark Connors and Drilla Maloney. So more Maloney and Sonata previews. Tanahashi and Masatori Yasuda take on ELP and Jado. So a lot of what we've already seen on this tour. Fifth match of the night, El Desperado, Kukai, Oleg Boltin, Tiger Mask, and Toriano. They take on the House of Torture team of Dick Togo, Don Fale, Doki, Evil, and Sho. The semi-main event will feature Shota Umino and Tomoaki Hanma taking on the Knockout Brothers. And then the main event is Hiromu, Shingo, Teton, and Tsuji taking on the War Dogs, Finley, Gabe Kidd, Gato, and Ishimori. So this is almost an exact duplicate of night 1, just with a few of the principal wrestlers kind of switched out. And then on Saturday, October the 11th, from Tokorozawa Municipal Gymnasium in Saitama, Japan, night 4 of the Road to KOPW. And we see Shomakato, Matsumoto taking on Yasuda and Zayn J. The second match of the night, Umino takes on Murashima. Third match of the night, Sonata and Kanemaru versus Clark Connors and Drilla Maloney. Fourth match, Bolton, Tiger Mask, Yano take on Dick Togo, Don Fale, and Evil. The fifth match of the night, Hanma and Yuya Uemura take on the Knockout Brothers. The semi-main event is Daiki Nagai, Shingo, Teton, and Tsuji taking on Finley, Kid, Geto, and Ishimori. So again, very similar in structure, almost the exact same show, but the final match of the night, this is the one to look out for. The IWGP Junior Heavyweight Tag Team titles are on the line as the champions, the House of Tortures, Doki and Sho, will defend against El Desperado and Kukai. It's a very good bet that you're going to see both of these teams on the Super Junior Tag League that is upcoming. And I think it is very suspect why this match is taking place after the singles title match already transpired. And you have to wonder, are we doing a switch? Are they going to put the titles on Despy and Kukai for a temporary period of time? Or is this just something to build heat between Despy and Doki, and you'll see the champions retain? Either way, based on what I've seen so far from House of Torture, I'm not too enthused for this match. At the same time, Kukai is sort of an unknown commodity, and he's been pretty impressive with what we've seen so far. And that is going to bring us to the big one. Luckily, Jeremy will be back next week, and we will be reviewing this show together. But that is going to be King of Pro Wrestling 2025, Monday, October 13th from Ryogoku Kagugakan Sumo Hall in Tokyo, Japan. And on that card, we've got 8 matches on the docket, and this is going to be our brief review for that show. So the opening contest, you have the team of Hiromu Takahashi, Shingo Takagi, and Teton taking on the Bullet Club team of the War Dogs, Clark Connors, David Finlay, and Taiji Ishimori. One thing that stands out, David Finlay and Shingo, they seem not to be done with one another and kind of are the consolation guys following their losses earlier on the Destruction Tour. In the meantime, it's pretty clear that you're going to see Hiromu and Teton team as part of the Super Junior Tag League. this is probably the match that's also going to establish the fact that Clark Connors and Taiji Ishimori will be going into that tournament together as well. It's going to be hard for me to predict and know everything that is upcoming for this show. Traditionally speaking, this isn't necessarily always the place where all the big announcements are made when it comes to Wrestle Kingdom. Usually that's sort of more reserved for Power Struggle, but this year there isn't a Power Struggle, and it's sort of being replaced for that Tanahashi homecoming show in Gifu. I don't know how big that show will be promoted and pushed. There are chances that we might see some stuff announced for it, but it's sort of difficult to know how they're going to treat that, whether that's a major event or not. Sort of like the way that Tanahashi Jam was intended to be. With that being the case, I think it's pretty safe to assume that we're going to get some announcements here. If it hasn't already happened, we probably will get the announcements of the Super Junior Tag League field, but we'll start to see some angles and some surprises, returns, things like that to really set up what's going to be happening in January at the Tokyo Dome. The second match of the night, Sonata versus Drilla Maloney. We already established that has now been announced. Well, not officially because it hasn't been made official by New Japan, but one has to assume that is going to be a no disqualification, no DQ, or that's what disqualification means. A no DQ, no count out match between these two guys. And I think it's going to be really interesting to see Sonata we've seen him brawl through the years, but kind of see him in a gimmick match situation. We know that Drilla Maloney is about that life, but it's, Sonata, he's been carrying the guitar around, and these guys have had some pretty heated exchanges, and it's kind of a crossroads match because if either one of them is in position to get some sort of push coming out of the match, even if it's a minor title, that's kind of a big deal because there's not as many major spots at the Tokyo Dome for these guys. And Drilla, we talked extensively about how he sort of broke out this year during the G1. Sonata's been on the slump for a couple years now, ever since he dropped the IWGP title. And it is a bit of a crossroads match, and you could sort of maybe anticipate Sonata winning this match, just because he is a more established guy. I think the real question is whether you see the winner of this match going on to challenge for the Never title, and whoever you think is going to be that champion at that point in time, or whether you think the winner of this match goes on to challenge for the television belt, which I would think is safe to assume will be ELP, but you never know. Right now, I'm kind of torn because I think that Drilla is the de facto tweener leaning face, but I kind of get the feeling that the winner might face ELP. And if that's the case, Sonata is the much, dastardly foil to him at this current time. And while I would like to see Drilla win, and I hope that he wins, it might be a situation where the booking, they love House of Torture, and they put that guy through, and they set him up as the foil to ELP. At the same time, I do think that even though Drilla is serving as a face here, he could easily turn up the aggression, turn up the nastiness against a guy like ELP in the very near future. So I think it does work either way. My heart is hoping that Drilla is the guy here because he kind of needs the push. But I feel like the company is still a little bit beholden to the old guard and not ready to completely discard them. And there's another thing too. We haven't seen Jake Lee in quite a while. Last time he was with the company, I think he was War Dogs, but I wouldn't be surprised. He used to team with Sonata. I wouldn't be surprised if he comes back and he's House of Torture moving forward. He kind of fits the motif of that group a little bit more. And maybe not only does he give the win to Sonata, but kind of establishes him and Sonata as a future tag team to look out for in the World Tag League. So that's kind of my prediction at this current time, where I see that match going. And I'm just hoping that the violence and the plunder is on hand and really delivers here. The next match of the evening, we're going to see the team of Bishamon reunite and team up with Yo as they take on the TMDK team of Hartley Jackson, Kosei Fujita, and Ryohei Oiwa. I'm a little, with Goto making the announcement that he was returning to action, I thought it might be in something that was a little bit more substantial. We've talked in the past about Hartley Jackson sort of being the de facto pin eater for TMDK, which is a bit of a perplexing decision, but probably where we're going with this match as well. And I don't know. I mean, maybe it's been a while since Bishamon's been together. World Tag League's around the corner. But I would hope that with the year that Goto had, that something substantial is around the corner. And, he's going to be opposite Oiwa. Maybe that is something that is on the horizon. I do think it would be a shame if they don't capitalize. Not only do they need to be thinking of what they'd like to do with Oiwa here in the near future and kind of giving him a push and a rub, but Goto has had such a phenomenal year. I think it would be a waste of space to not get him on that Tokyo Dome card or not have him doing something of note and significance. So, and this match, it is very questionable about like what they're going to do here, but it usually would scream Road To match. And the fact that it's coming after Sonata and Drilla Maloney and not prior to it, it leads me to believe that something is going to happen here. And I know maybe I'm getting a little outlandish thinking something is going to happen on every single match, and that's probably clearly not the case, but maybe it will. Even if it's not a return or surprise like that, it might even just be an angle to further whatever's going to happen next with Goto and Yoshihashi. And I hope it's not just we're going to World Tag League, The fourth match of the evening, we have the NJPW World Television title on the line. The champion El Phantasmo, he takes on Hiroshi Tanahashi. Tanahashi has fought for basically every single major singles title in New Japan this year and lost. And this may be his final match ever in Sumo Hall before he retires. I haven't looked at the schedule, but there's a good chance that that is the case. So pretty big honor for ELP. A lot to live up to, a lot of nostalgia. These guys have been playing nice all throughout the tour. I'm hoping that goes out the window. Again, it is only a 15-minute time limit. Is there the chance Tanahashi could pull the upset win, take the title off of ELP, and maybe use that as a de facto trinket going into his retirement match, and maybe even create the fact that those matches are only 15 minutes would serve potentially his shortcomings and limitations down the stretch with the wildly active year that he's had and the many bumps and miles that he's put on his body, even just this year alone. Is that a possibility? Yeah, I think it is. But at the same time, I don't know that the TV title is prestigious enough to matter when it comes to that. It would just sort of be gold to put around his waist just because. And it's not necessarily the most alluring or appetizing title in the first place at this point in time. It's been a long time since we've seen that first initial title run from Zack Sabre Jr. where he sort of established it as something important, and it never really has been again since then. So with that being said, I do think ELP is going to pick up the win here, as many others have. And I liked what Luke said earlier in the show about Tanahashi announcing his retirement here, and maybe this is where we get the announcement of his opponent. And I'm holding out hope that it is in fact Nakamura. But there's other viable candidates. I think that potentially you just never know. A guy like Okada, that's one. A guy like Kenny Omega, that's another. It could be potentially someone like Goto or Naito. Those are also potential opponents. He did pick up a win over Yota Tsuji earlier in the G1, and Tsuji has never regained that loss. So I think that those are all viable potential candidates. I don't know how alluring any of those matches in particular are. They're a far cry from The Rock, which was, kind of a rumor that was making the rounds earlier in the year. So I don't think it's going to be that match. And, you know, me throwing out a guy like Tsuji, do I think Tsuji's going to come out prior to his global title match and challenge Tanahashi here? No. I think if it was someone like him, you might be waiting more till the traditional power struggle date for the Tanahashi homecoming. But I'm holding out hope that because Nakamura is in town, maybe a one-time exception is made and we hear that music, we hear him come down the aisle to Hypnotized, and or even if it was just his WWE theme, that's fine too. But we see him and Tanahashi one last time. That would be very special to see him come out in Sumo Hall. Some of the battles these guys have had in that arena together, and close out, you know, Tanahashi's career the right way. The fifth match of the night, we have the never openweight title on the line. Oleg Boltin will be defending his title against Evil, and I have to tell you guys, I'm thinking Evil wins here, and that is one of the reasons why I'm shying away from the winner of Sonata and Drilla Maloney challenging for this title. Although if Drilla were to win and he were the guy to challenge Evil, then that would be a huge step up and maybe something that could be quite exciting. But I'm thinking Sonata's going to win, go on to face ELP. Evil picks up the win here over Oleg Boltin. People are going to be very upset about that, but the fact that Evil was the semi-finalist or the, you know, the runner-up in the G1 and has as of yet done anything of note or significance, I think that's very telling. And I think the chances of him picking up the win here are pretty high. And I know some people listening are like, man, he's got a lot of House of Torture going over. Yeah, that's because that's what they push. That's what they've been doing. And, you know, if this is the Tokyo Dome, maybe I'd see them getting their comeuppance here. But I think they're going to establish some of these guys in the lead up to those shows. The sixth match of the night, we're in the business end of things. We have the IWGP Tag Team titles on the line. The Knockout Brothers, Asuka and Yuto Ice, the new champions, they will defend against the team of Shota Umino and Yuya Uemura. We had the question here from Ampersand Kangaroo. He says, is it more embarrassing to team with Joe Hendry or Shota Umino? He's just asking for a friend. Yeah, and I think it is Joe Hendry, but he did have a WrestleMania moment, so hard to say there. But I've loved the build to this match, even though it's been very short-lived. I don't know if I love long-term the idea of Umino and Yuya Uemura. I think last week I kind of pointed out the idea that these two guys need something to refresh them and to reinvent them a little bit, give them some space to grow. And maybe that's something this tag team could do. But if you are of the mindset that that's not, you don't trust the creative to actually do that and allow them to have the space to and the latitude to do something new and connect with the crowd and be established in a tag team like that together, then you're probably wondering about the obvious elephant in the room where it's like Shota Umino is a guy that's been pushed and used and promoted much further than a Yuya Uemura, but Uemura is clearly the more skilled and talented guy and kind of fits the mold of a New Japan ace and has been pushed and talked up by the president of the company, Tanahashi, and sort of the potential jealousy that could exist between these two guys. And maybe that will still come to fruition. I know last week I voiced that I didn't love the outcome of the Umino Narita feud, but maybe there could be some legs to these two guys. But so far, they haven't even as much as teased something like that. Is it possible Umino and Uemura pick up the win here and walk out as champions? That really, as much as it might surprise people, it wouldn't shock me for them to have given a short-term title reign to new guys returning from excursion, but upset them quickly just so they can have something to sort of chase. That's kind of Gato classic booking 101, and I wouldn't be surprised, especially since Umino and Uemura are the more established veterans here in the company. They're the senpais. But I'm predicting the Knockout Brothers to pick up the win here. Maybe Umino and Uemura go on, but then hopefully we see something brewing during the World Tag League. But It's tough because there's only so many spots in the Tokyo Dome, and these are two guys that people are clamoring for them to do something with, figure something out, and we don't got a lot of time. It's dwindling. The semi-main event of the evening, this is the match that I think is most anticipated at this point in time, just based on the reactions from the crowd and the history between them. Even if it's not what it once was, we have the IWGP Global Heavyweight title match on the line. The champion, Gabe Kidd, he's defending against the challenger, Yota Tsuji. They've exchanged this title throughout the year. This is the third singles meeting between these two guys, and probably the one that's going to deliver the best action on the evening. Death Triangle 720 says, let's just say New Japan does go through the double title match at Wrestle Kingdom. Do you think they would need another special singles match to justify that? And there is no denying that if they do decide to have the global champion face the world champion at Wrestle Kingdom, that creates an open spot for whatever you wanted to push, whether it is a special singles match or whether it is some other sort of special attraction that could potentially be a good thing. I know there's going to be a lot of people critical and hesitant about the idea of another quasi double gold dash, and I'm one of them. I didn't love the way they handled it the first time, but at the same time, I don't know that I need this title in the first place. And if it's gonna be the way we get to Tsuji and Takeshita, maybe so be it. I don't know, but I am taking Tsuji to pick up the win over Gabe Kidd. I like the story they've been telling on commentary about how these two guys spent time living with one another in the home of Gabe Kidd with his family when Tsuji was on excursion in the UK, and these guys were in the Noge dojo together and, used to butt heads extensively about the nature of professional wrestling, what it should be, what it could be, and what their place and destiny within that, within the picture of pro wrestling would be. So really looking forward to this one. And I would have picked Kidd to retain, but I've been saying for a while, I don't see him going into the Dome with that title. And it just feels like Tsuji should be the guy that if they are going to do this thing, that he's the domestic guy. He should be the one going into that big challenge match. I don't know. Let's just say, for instance, Takeshita did win. I don't love the optics of two highly aligned AEW talents in one of the top matches of the Dome. I don't know how that would potentially look. I think Yota Tsuji is a better fit, makes more sense, and we're going to go from there. And then that takes us to the main event of the evening. If there is another match that could potentially give the semi-main event a run for its money, it is Zack Sabre Jr. versus Takeshita for the IWGP World Heavyweight title. I didn't love the first match in the G1 they had, but the second match was stellar, and I'm hoping they're able to build upon what they did in that match. And I don't expect Zack Sabre Jr. to walk out the champion. I know some people are trying to get a little bit cute with it. They think that maybe that's where we're headed. It just doesn't make a lot of sense to me personally. And I think that the G1 winner is going to win the title here. Death Triangle 720 asked, do you think the chances of Takeshita winning the title have decreased since he and Okada may potentially win tag team gold in AEW? And truth be told, I don't watch AEW regularly, except for maybe some of the pay-per-views, and I didn't watch the last one, unfortunately. So I know a little bit about what's going on. The good news is they are building to some sort of split and altercation between these guys. Sometimes Tony drags that stuff out. I don't know when it's going to happen. There was speculation about C2, maybe not. And if they were to potentially win the titles together, they've been doing can they coexist storylines forever. We've even seen IWGP tag team champions face each other in the main event of the Dome in the past as well. So that doesn't necessarily mean anything to me. Plus, these two companies don't always acknowledge each other's kayfabe to the highest level anyways. I think the chances of Takeshita winning really are independent entirely about what is going on in AEW at this point in time, other than the talks that are taking place behind closed doors when it comes to Rocky and TK and Gato and Tanahashi and whoever else it is that's involved in these kinds of decisions. But that is going to do it. Jeremy will be back next week. We're going to be happy to review that show extensively. Let's jump into the news and then a couple questions, and we're going to get out of here. So Sean Ross Sapp and Fightful Select announced this past week that they had a special report about low attendance and some talent not wanting to work NJPW US shows have led to fewer of them being booked. Right now, there isn't a plan to have them at the level we previously saw. And I mean, I don't know, that's just a cracking journalism. It's not something that we've said extensively on this show for months, and that many other who are in the community have already spoken about pretty openly for a while. So I thought it was interesting they decided to break the news at this current time. But we did have some questions here. Death Triangle 720 says, do you think New Japan US shows could have worked if they had interweaven the stories they had in Japan on the US shows? What I mean is, back in 2017, 2018 time, the US shows mattered because they had a direct effect on the booking. He also asked, with the US shows being officially done for New Japan right now, do you think New Japan should take a couple of years off running US shows? And that's a lot of questions there, a lot of content, but I'll answer them succinctly. So I think it's very difficult to interweave. We've talked about the difficulties of how New Japan as a touring company deals with the results and the promotion of future cards, even just domestically. That gets even more convoluted and difficult when you are trying to promote internationally at the same time. And you're absolutely right. The earlier shows did matter more. I do think that there was some potential for the expansion to have been a lot broader and more aggressive during that time frame prior to the advent of AEW. Maybe with the partnership of ROH, if those two companies could have figured out what was in front of them, what the opportunity was, and secured the money to do that. But neither of them really had the stomach to take on that kind of risk, and Tony did. And there's a reason that they're number two, and these companies kind of got pushed out. At the same time, I don't know that they shouldn't run in the U.S. at all, but I don't have the business on that. I don't know. What they're able to do financially. I liked the idea of what they were. I don't know what they're earning from these and what's viable and what's not viable. I do like when it seemed like they were going to start just running major shows periodically. And I think that is a good way to go, and probably a better utilization of their resources than just, running all these smaller shows, these smaller strong shows throughout the year that, probably didn't profit the way that they hoped they would. Konosuke Takeshita's G1 documentary is coming soon in English as he prepares to challenge for the IWGP World Heavyweight title at King of Pro Wrestling. September 29th, Go Shiozaki's contract with Pro Wrestling Noah has expired, and Shiozaki decided to leave the company. The reports are this is indefinite. He's not expected to return, and I believe he's entering into some sort of freelance status, so we'll see where that takes us. September 30th, there was the press conference prior to the day of the Wrestle Kingdom tickets being sold. Tanahashi's last match and Wolf's first match. These are just some excerpts that I took from the reports that were online. But Tanahashi's last match and Wolf's first match will be against... but unfortunately, details were not spelled out just yet. They told the crowd to wait a little bit longer. Tanahashi said before clarifying that his final bout would definitely be a singles match and won't be against Wolf himself, and that he wants things to come full circle in his career, and he wants whoever he faces for there to be a connection. And then he kind of pulled himself back and said like he can't say too much at this current time. Aaron Wolf talked about the level of experience that at this point in time he's not able to choose his opponents, but that there's so many different kinds of wrestlers here that he needs to basically at some point wrestle everybody. And if it's up to him, he wants to take that fight and try and win. There were some hints on the show about what to expect for January 4th. Aaron Wolf said that he plans for his entrance, that it's going to be, that there's plans in place and that they're keeping them secret up until January 4th. So looks like he might be getting the special treatment, the special debut, kind of similar to what they did with Nakamura back in the day. And then Tanahashi promised to debut new one-time only ring gear for his retirement event. Wolf would close the presser by thanking the fans for their support in the last 3 months, with 3 more months to go until his debut, while Tanahashi promised that the culmination of 26 years of his career will take place at the Tokyo Dome. Wrestle Kingdom 20 had over 20,000 fans purchase tickets on the first day of general on sale for Wrestle Kingdom 20. They are calling it, as of now, one of the fastest selling Tokyo Domes, that they're on track to have one of the largest houses or gates they've ever done. You know, it's always really hard to tell what those early 90s, mid 90s Tokyo Dome shows really were, when they would claim 50, 60,000. But there is no denying that they didn't have oftentimes the same kind of stage setup that Wrestle Kingdoms typically do. And they're able to fit more people into the building. So definitely success here, but I think it's a little lofty for the company to say, like, oh, this is the fastest selling, when in fact they've done bigger buildings or bigger gates than what they probably will here, but they may be on track for a major sellout, which is not something me and Jeremy were expecting with the way that business has gone this year, and that's a huge boost and a great sign. Death Triangle 720 says, with Wrestle Kingdom tickets already selling well, do you think the current roster there is big, that there's a big enough match that will move more tickets? And maybe. We're going to see 1 week from now. Noah's Odyssey on October 11th takes place from Sumo Hall, just 2 days before KOPW. They did announce, we had some confusion last week. We thought that there was going to be a singles match, but it is now confirmed as a tag team match. Hiroshi Tanahashi and Keito Kiyomiya, they will take on the team of Kano and Marufuji. And then also Hiromu will be defending his GHC junior title against Aita. And then the last bit of news here. So between October 1st and 2nd, the IWGP Women's Champion Sareee made surprise appearances in Ring of Honor for Tony Khan. She had a tag appearance on the first evening, and then I believe she teamed with Alex Windsor that set up a title match for the following show. And it was actually here in Lakeland. I could have attended that Collision taping. I decided not to, and it looks like I missed a IWGP Women's title defense. I don't know how much time they got, but she did defend the title against Alex Windsor the following day. I haven't seen the results to see if Windsor is now currently the IWGP Women's Champion, but I doubt it. The reports, though, are that Sareee is expected to make more U.S. appearances. We had a question from Not Kenta Kobashi. Thoughts/hopes on Sareee doing an AEW excursion with the women's belt. And I have been impressed with the talent and the recent utilization of the women in AEW from what I've seen. Would I like to see Sareee, who is, you know, even though she's a Joshi, she's not specifically aligned with Stardom. She is, freelancer. She has her own promotion. And she does do shots in Stardom, or has in the past, but she is open to carry that belt other places. Do I think it would be helpful for her to show up in AEW with the title? Maybe to some extent. I don't know how big an effect it would really have, but would be cool and could be a great thing to kind of boost the women's scene. So that is going to take us to our questions. We just got a couple, and then we're going to get out of here. The first question comes from Careford13. He says, what title has been the MVP champion this year? The IWGP World Heavyweight Champion or the Junior Heavyweight Championship? And I don't know. You know, I'm going to kind of put a push on that one, because while Desperado has had a really good title run, I don't know that I've loved all of his title matches or been enthralled or enthused with them. The IWGP titles had some really great title defenses, but it was all, you know, the thing going against them is, like, the junior title's been on no major shows. The world title has been in the semi-main event multiple times this year, has had some lackluster matches, some good champions. But I don't know. I would probably say, like, when Goto was champion, yeah, it was like, you know, the MVP title of the year, but it hasn't really stayed that way. The booking and utilization of the global title has been kind of perplexing. I don't know that there is, at this current time, an MVP championship. Probably, if you looked at the cage match scores for the strong women's and the IWGP women's titles, there's probably a case to be made that those titles have had better showings outside of New Japan than almost any of the men's titles. within the company in this calendar year. Just saying. Life Valuable 381 says, do you think Hiromu will ever have the chance of the junior title main eventing Wrestle Kingdom, or hell, even him just getting a heavyweight run? And it's starting to kind of feel like the sun is beginning to set on both of those things. Would I love to see it? Absolutely. Should have already happened 100%. But if I was a betting man, I wouldn't take that bet. Live Valuable also asked, what do you think is New Japan's biggest missed opportunity in the last 12 to 24 months? That is a really, really tough question. I would have to say, in my opinion, man, really, really, really tough question. I want to say something related to like the G1. I think that probably there was an opportunity last year to establish a much stronger challenger for Zack Sabre Jr. than Shota Umino, and the way that they brought him to the dance was so lackluster, and I still think we're feeling the reverberating effects from that to this day. I also think that there is an argument to be made that they missed the peak with Gabe Kidd in the early part of the year. But also kind of knowing what has transpired since then, I don't know that I can entirely say like, oh, that would be the boost to business that you hope it would be. I think it'd be a boost to his brand and maybe would have helped business a bit, but the end result still probably winds up being the same here. And then I'm trying to wonder. I mean, I feel like not giving any of those young guys, whichever one you want it to be, whether it was Tsuji, whether it was Yumura, whether it was Oleg Boltin, doesn't really matter. The idea that they have just yet to have fully committed to any of these guys in the past 2 years is bewildering. Pentultimo Dragon says, do you ever get frustrated by the comparative lack of information that we get with New Japan Pro Wrestling? WWE and AEW, they leak like sieves. I don't know what a sieve is, but I don't know. We get information. I know that it's not always leaked to the public, and we bite our tongue a little bit here. This is not, we don't like to break news, especially since oftentimes it is not direct to me and Jeremy, or even if it is, it's usually in confidence, and it's generally situations where it's going to be second or third hand. We can pretty easily get it verified talking to other individuals and talents and things like that, but it's just not our bag. Because we are not journalists, we don't feel the need or responsibility to break news, and we usually leave that to other publications and people that are out there. Doesn't mean that we don't hear things. You know, we kind of got our ears to the ground. We hear a few things, and if you know the right places to travel, the right people to talk to, the information's out there. I think one of the reasons it's less readily available to come by is just because, Dave Meltzer himself, who's one of the biggest like news sources, he doesn't have the same contacts in Japan that he used to when like the elite were there and that sort of thing. And a lot of the community in North America that are tied to Japan, they're a little bit more close-chested and responsible with the information that is given to them, which is a good thing. So if anything, that's probably your answer. And then the final question, and we're going to close out the show. So Joel from friend of the show, Joel Abraham from Super J Cast, he says, Josh's thoughts on the 1985 Day of the Dead, please. Oh man, Joel, that's a tough question. So, I almost feel a little bit blasphemous making this statement, but I'm not necessarily the biggest George A. Romero guy that there ever was. Don't get me wrong. I understand the importance, the value, and I am very thoroughly entertained when I watch Night of the Living Dead. I think it is a little bit dated for what it is, but it's so revolutionary and different and unique for its time. And there is a lot of kind of kitschiness to it, rawness, and I like that. That being said, for years and years, I wanted to see Dawn of the Dead. It was like promoted as the greatest zombie film that there ever was. And I watched, maybe this is my mistake, but I watched it wasn't available readily online. It still kind of isn't, but I found this master supercut of that movie, because there are so many cuts of Dawn of the Dead that it's hard to say what is the definitive version, because there's a lot of good versions, but they all have different footage. And so I found a definitive master cut that had just spliced seamlessly with great music and great visuals, everything into one master cut that includes the entirety of the story. And I was like, if I'm going to see it, instead of watching all these versions, I'll just watch this version. And it is a great movie. I think the opening of it is great. I think there's a great commentary, and all of George A. Romero's original Dead trilogy all have a lot of social commentary to them. But I don't think that movie is the legendary status cult following masterpiece that people make it out to be. There's a lot of things that I can point to that are not for me, in terms of the pacing, in terms of the just the general tone and flavor of that film. And that's going to take me to Dawn of the Dead, the much anticipated 1985, what was supposed to be at the time the close out to the trilogy, but wound up being, just the third installment for a film series that ended up outliving its welcome, because George A. Romero made several sequels. I do like the one from the early 2000s. I forget the name of that one, but Dawn of the Dead was at the time the least receptively received film of the three. A lot of that had to do with like the bleak undertones and the fact that most of the cast, the movie is centered, an underground bunker, and it has a more serious and kind of desolate tone and style to it. I like the movie. I think it's a bit underrated, honestly. Of the three, if I were to pick one to watch regularly, not that I would watch any of them regularly, but I think Day of the Dead might be it, because Tom Savini's work is the most developed and given the budget to do the kinds of things that he's able to do with movie magic. It is one of the gnarliest zombie films when it comes to kills and special effects and everything like that. And I also I forget the main character, is it Gus? I forget, but the zombie that is able to learn and start using tools. And I love the idea that George A. Romero builds upon the precipice of concepts of what he did in movies prior to that. He doesn't just stick to the old tropes, and I think a lot of that is really, really cool. But it's a bleak movie, really, really bleak movie. I think it is good. It gets a little long in the tooth in the third act for my taste, but it is a really good movie. That being said, when we're comparing 1985 zombie flicks, I think Reanimator, which is it's questionable whether that's a zombie film or not, but I think it's in the vein, and I think that's much better. I mean, much, much, much better, but it's very Lovecraftian. But the one that takes the cake for me is Return of the Living Dead, which was the spin-off of the very convoluted Living Dead. It's a whole entire huge controversy for people that probably don't know about it. So when George A. Romero, and I forget who his partner is, it's John something, when they made Night of the Living Dead, it was an indie film, and they had issues securing the rights, and that's why the movie has been used in perpetuity in all sorts of media for so many years, because nobody really kind of owns those rights, or there's no way you can get sued for, it's part of the public domain basically. But the two creators had different ideas what they wanted to do with the with the franchise. So George went on his way and he made the Dead movies, and then the other creator went on and made the Living Dead series, and they all are different branches of sequels to the original Night of the Living Dead. So they're different reimaginings. And then there's tons of splinters and unauthorized sequels and yada yada from all the different branches that have to do with this franchise. It's kind of crazy. But Return of the Living Dead was the direct sequel in 1985 from his branch of things. And that movie is fucking incredible. If you've never seen Return of the Living Dead, I think it mops Day of the Dead. I like Day of the Dead a lot. I think it's a very, very good movie. And it probably has better zombie kills and makeup and effects. But man, Return of the Living Dead is gnarly. It is so entertaining. It's high octane, super kitschy, super fun, has an incredible soundtrack. Yeah, that's my recommendation. That's my favorite horror movie for 1985. So thanks for the question, Joel. Thanks for Luke for coming on the show. And that is going to do it. Next week, I'll be back with the boss man, Jeremy Donovan, to review Superhuman Taiji Ishimori, Road to Nights 3 and 4, and King of Pro Wrestling. We'll also preview Road to in Ishikari and Super Junior Tag League 2025. We'll also cover all the latest news in professional Japanese wrestling. Remember, if you want to watch our show live or listen without ads, sign up to patreon.com/KIStrongStyle. You can also make a donation by visiting socialsuplex.com/donate and clicking on the donate button under the Keepin' It Strong Style logo. Make sure to connect with us on social media on X and Blue Sky. Follow us at KI Strong Style, at Social Suplex, at Jeremy L. Donovan, and at YB_Josh and Liger on Facebook. Follow us at facebook.com/Social Suplex and the Wrestling Square Circle Facebook group. On Reddit, I am Keepin' It Strong Style, and Jeremy's the Pro Black Guy. On YouTube, we're Social Suplex. Join our Social Suplex Discord server to interact with us and other wrestling fans. You can email Jeremy at jeremy@socialsuplex.com. Be sure to check out all the other shows on the Social Suplex Podcast Network. One Nation Radio with Rich Latta and James Boyd. All Things Elite with Floyd Johnson Jr. and Austin Sumowitz. Imp's AEW Adventure with Implications, Matthew Mayer. Wrestling Art with Chris Things. Tunnel Talk with Allie, Ann, and Leah. And the Trish and Sarah Wrestling Podcast. And don't forget to subscribe, leave a rating and review. And we'll catch you next week on Keepin' It Strong Style, the ace of podcasts, Itchy Bond.
Thank you for listening to Keepin' It Strong Style. We'll see you next time.